you guys do that, man. It's unfair. We lost as a team.
As Terrell Owens said, that's my quarterback. It is the position that everybody wants to play growing up. It's the position that everybody, regardless of what level it is, Diesel, wants to know who the quarterback is, high school, college, or pro, heading into the season. Well, who's playing quarterback? The quarterback is what moves the needle for everyone, and that's where we're starting the show today, except not in college, not in high school like you may think. We're going to take it to the pros, and we're going to take a look at the quarterback rooms in the NFL with the biggest question marks heading into 2025. Which rooms in your mind are in flux? I've written down about 9 or 10 candidates. And Tolos, we need your help coming up with a top 5. That's what we're doing to start the show. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He is Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. Tolos, the phone lines are open. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line also open at 844-326-3663. Want to hear from you because, Diesel, while quarterback moves the needle, there are some quarterback rooms in the NFL that aren't doing much needle moving these days. I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah, you would think that a lot of these teams would have it figured out by now, and coaches have it down to a science. You can just spot the best quarterback from a mile away, but it is not the case with the teams that you already put down on this list. Man, I could see so many question marks.
You can see a lot of question marks. And Tolos, as Diesel said, I've written down, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams that I believe their quarterback room is in serious flux heading into the 2025 NFL season. If you feel like I've missed one, let us know at 844-326-3663. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 21 Tolos already watching the show, as you can do at the Fan Upstate on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. But, Diesel, when you go through these, man, there are some question marks. There are some guys where you feel like maybe there's some potential there, right? But at the same time, the NFL, we all know it goes, each team goes, each franchise and organization goes as the quarterback goes. And let's speaking of quarterbacks, let's start with the first team that I wrote down on my top candidates for quarterback rooms in 2025. Now, the objective here is for you and I, with the help of the Tolos, to rank the top 5 in flux. I've got 9 written down. But I think the most intriguing that we'll start with is the Cleveland Browns. And yeah, I just said intriguing and Browns in the same sentence. Think about that for a second. But when you look at the Cleveland Browns, Diesel, it is really interesting what that quarterback room looks like heading into 2025. And a lot of it has to do with what they did in the draft, not taking one quarterback, but what they do, they took more than one quarterback. Currently, Diesel, they have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. In your mind, are you with me or against me that this one's the most intriguing, but that intriguing could also be in a bad way?
Yeah, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him, taking 2 quarterbacks. I mean, they could have stopped at number 3. They could have stopped with the quarterback that's number 3 on their depth chart, their 3rd-round pick in Dylan Gabriel, and you would have been able to make a very convincing case of why that guy has a chance to win the quarterback position by mid-season if Joe Flacco isn't who they think he's going to be. He is 40, by the way.
Is he 40?
Not to say anything bad about 40-year-old dudes, because yeah. But he is an older dude, right? Kenny Pickett has never been what we thought he was going to be in the NFL.
And he's hurt now, by the way.
And Dylan Gabriel, he was good. He was good at Oregon. And you could make a strong case for that guy being your starter by week 6, 7, 8 of the season.
You know what's interesting, Diesel? This might come across the wrong way, but Kenny Pickett's hurt. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about this quarterback room being in flux, this might sound bad, but I don't intend for it to sound as bad as it might sound. But Kenny Pickett being injured during training camp might be the best thing for the Browns. And what I mean is, now you're getting to see Dylan Gabriel. Now you're getting to see Shedeur Sanders, right? We know what Joe Flacco, as you said, he's 40 years old. But when you talk about really evaluating these guys and Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, even though Kenny Pickett's listed at 2 on the roster, do you tell those out there, Diesel, do you feel like Kenny Pickett's the backup quarterback in Cleveland or worthy of being the backup when you have 2 young guys in Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders who one of them might pan out?
No, it's one of those ready-made situations where a coach is looking for a reason to jump Kenny Pickett with one of these 2 guys or both of these guys. I mean, it's going to be fun to see the battle play out in training camp. I mean, this may be the most intriguing team to watch when they have their preseason games because we're going to see a lot of Dylan Gabriel and we're going to see a lot of Shedeur Sanders in those preseason games. And that's not typically the case. You wouldn't get down to number 4 or 5 on the depth chart with quarterbacks and see those guys actually playing. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Deshaun Watson is still on the roster even though he is out for the season. He's still employed and still being paid that massive guaranteed contract. I mean, that's just a facepalm if there ever was one. Just, why do we do this for Deshaun Watson?
So what you're saying is the Browns are the most exciting watch. The Browns are the best watch in the preseason because you might see a starting quarterback in the preseason that might be the starter from or down the road a little bit, down the line a little bit. It is intriguing, though, because there are 4 quarterbacks on the roster. I don't know if they'll carry 3. Most carry 2. But it is going to be interesting to watch. DB says Tolo from Tampa. DB, appreciate you Toloing from Tampa.
That means
Florida?
He is flying someone cool around because Dan doesn't take flights unless it's a celebrity flight. Dan, are you in Tampa flying a plane? Not right this moment because I don't think you get signal at 36,000 feet. But are you? Did you take a flight to get you down to Tampa and back? And who are you moving around right now?
He's got the YouTube TV, or he's got YouTube on wire to wire while he's flying through the air now.
Do you have one of those little sticky suction cup mounts on the inside of the airplane windshield?
So Tolo's Diesel out there. I ask you if we can only put top 5 quarterback rooms in flux. We can make adjustments. But Diesel, did the Cleveland Browns make the top 5? Are we going to put them in the top 5?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The Browns have to be in the top 5.
So we've got 1 through 5. Again, the candidates I've put down, the Browns, the Colts, the Raiders, the Vikings, Patriots, Saints, Giants, Seahawks, and Titans. So what we'll do is we'll highlight the Browns just because they're going to make the top 5, and we'll take a look at another team. I asked about the Cleveland Browns to start, Diesel, but let's next go to the Indianapolis Colts and see if this Indianapolis Colts quarterback room is in flux enough for you and I and the Tolos to include them in the top 5. What do we have? At number 1 on the depth chart, you have Anthony Richardson.
Oh, remember when people convinced themselves that was a good idea?
Yes. And it didn't work out to be. You also have former New York Giant Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, you have Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, who is on this roster. And then you have a guy named Jason Bean. Not Mr. Bean, but Jason Bean. Is
Gardner Minshew not still with the Colts as well?
I don't know. Maybe he's on the practice squad, but Jason Bean is 6'2", 196 out of Kansas, his second season in the NFL. So, exactly. Wouldn't you say this quarterback room? I mean, here's the way to look at it. Are we so confident in Anthony Richardson that we're saying, the Colts quarterback room, it's all good?
No. Anthony Richardson is going to be replaced. If he starts week 1, he's going to be replaced by Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones will be the starter for this team.
You'd ever said
and
that?
That's a depressing thought if you're a Colts fan.
Isn't it? Think about that. You just out of your mouth said Anthony Richardson will be replaced by Daniel Jones. Think about that for a second.
I know. That's what I said.
Maybe the Colts have the number 1 quarterback room in flux. I mean, they're leading the charge, right?
Yeah.
Diesel, it's not because they don't have a lot of options. It's because we just don't know that any of the options are good options.
Well, yeah, none of these options are good. None of these options are good.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why
Riley Leonard was a 6th-round pick, for crying out loud.
I know.
He could be okay. I mean, you never know. There's all kinds of stories of quarterbacks that played well in college, were not highly sought after in the NFL draft, who end up making decent careers for themselves. I don't think Riley Leonard's going to be one of those guys.
Diesel, I would next throw at you and the Tolos the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to put them on the list as an honorable mention. I don't think they're going to make the top 5, though. Geno Smith's kind of the guy there. When you look at the rest of the quarterback room, Geno Smith separates himself from Aiden O'Connell and Cam Miller.
Oh, yeah.
So while we don't know how good that quarterback room's going to be, I think we're safe to say that Geno Smith, barring something dramatic happening, is going to win the job. So I don't necessarily know that one makes the top 5.
T Swizzle says, get Phillip Rivers off the couch or Teddy Bridgewater. Didn't Teddy just get in trouble for recruiting or something with high school violations?
Yeah, some kind of high school violation.
Yeah, well, he needs a gig then, I guess. He needs to get away from that situation, go back to playing again.
RJ on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says the Cleveland Browns revolving door at quarterback is the gift that keeps on giving. Have they made a second jersey for that list of names yet?
They should just Velcro on the name plate on the back of the jersey, so when they change, you just rip it off and put on a new one.
So here's an interesting candidate, Diesel. Let's look at the Vikings. You have J.J. McCarthy, who was hurt last season. And Sam Darnold in the regular season in Minnesota, if you remember, was one of the coolest stories of the 2024 NFL season, right? Now, that didn't translate into the playoffs, but Sam Darnold was terrific in 2024. You lose Sam Darnold. You have J.J. McCarthy, who's not proven at the NFL level. You have Sam Howell, who's, I think, a former Washington Commander, really not really the best option. And then you have two guys named Brett Rypien and Max Brosmer, who nobody knows. So, while you have J.J. McCarthy, Diesel, do you feel 110% confident in the Vikings quarterback room?
No. I will say Max Brosmer would have been a legend at the Kappa Sig fraternity house.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's got the word bro in their last name is going straight to the top of management for that fraternity for the year. Max Brosmer, great name. J.J. McCarthy, we'll see if he can stay healthy, right? He missed his rookie year, torn meniscus, underwent surgery. What shape is it in? I mean, I'm sure by now it's healed, and he's going to be out there taking those first-team reps, but will it hold up?
And I guess the biggest thing for me with J.J. McCarthy is, Diesel, not only the injury that you just pointed out, but the fact that J.J. McCarthy is as unproven in the NFL as anybody. I mean, he is 100% unproven. I don't care about what he did in training camp last year or training camp
or what he
this
did
year.
at Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to come in and prove himself. So while they have their guy, I'm just not so sure that I could be wrong. Maybe he turns out to be a terrific quarterback. I'm just not so sure that it's solidified. I do think it's a little bit in flux. Let me throw this one at you. New England, Drake May, Josh Dobbs, and Ben Woodridge. Okay, Ben Woodridge threw a touchdown pass today at Patriots training camp, right? Josh Dobbs has been in the NFL for a few years now. Drake May, we don't know. We can ask Grayson Mann at 422. He's a Patriots fan, how he feels about this quarterback room. I just don't know that, while you have guys, Diesel, here's my problem with this depth chart. Do you see your long-term solution in your quarterback room?
No, not unless Drake May finds another gear.
That's what I'm saying.
That he didn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, the Patriots were historically bad around him. Let's not put it all on Drake and say the team stunk because of him.
Yeah. And Drake May threw a deep ball to Kyle Williams today. It was a 40-yard touchdown pass, perfect throw, deep ball. Again, in training camp at times, Drake May's looked good, but I just don't know. I think there's questions there. I really do. Next team, as we're trying to find 5, the New Orleans Saints. Diesel, they drafted Tyler Shuck out of Louisville. He is, as of right now, QB1. But there's a guy on his tail that's had a pretty good training camp thus far in the young training camp that we've had, named Spencer Rattler. And Tyler Shuck was highly touted. You know, a lot of people looked at Tyler Shuck as kind of a dark horse coming out of college, right? A name that wasn't being talked about with the likes of Shedeur Sanders. But you also have Jake Haener on the roster. I don't look at this roster in the quarterback room as in flux, Diesel. I just look at it as I think there's still a little bit to be proven because there's so much unknown with Tyler Shuck. I don't know that Spencer Rattler's going to beat him out. He may.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to score points here with Gamecock fans. Somebody before you start texting in and calling me a homer, I'm not any way, shape, or form. I think Spencer Rattler deserves a real shot. I think he deserves, to take first series reps, first half reps in all of the preseason games. And,
and I think he will.
If he proves that he can't do it, okay, you've got evidence. But he didn't get to play a ton last year, right?
No.
So you can't go out there. I mean, what they're expecting is these movie magic moments that you've been sitting there and waiting, and you finally get out on the field, and oh my God, you throw for 4 touchdowns in your first game. That's an unfair expectation for anyone.
No, I think Rattler Diesel will get an opportunity to go win the job. Does he win the job? Ultimately, I don't think he does. I think Tyler Shuck probably wins the job. And yeah, it's a little risky going with a young guy to start the season, but both are young guys. Like Spencer Rattler is still a young guy in the NFL, right?
Tyler was a first-round pick, right? Spencer was in the 4th or 5th, if I'm not
Yeah, he was 4th,
mistaken.
or I believe he was 4th. Throw a couple more at you real quick. The New York Giants, this one's interesting. Russell Wilson, QB1. He's already been named QB1.
You picked a bad time to say that name because I almost spit my coffee out.
Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, and Tommy DeVito.
Oh, my God.
Maybe the most.
This is a reality show.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Maybe the most, the funniest quarterback room in the NFL. Is that quarterback room in flux in your mind?
I don't know, but it's the place that I want to be a fly on the wall. I want to be in that room with those 4 dudes.
I think it is in flux. I'm not sold on Russell Wilson at the age of 76 or whatever he is. Does he still have good ball left in him? Maybe a little bit. I'm just not sold. And maybe I'm a hater or a doubter, but I just think it is in flux because I don't know that Jackson Dart's going to pan out. I don't know that Jameis Winston's going to provide much. Tommy DeVito's, he's what he is. That's exactly what he is. And then who was the other one I missed? Tommy, Jameis, Russell, and Jax. So I think it is in flux. Does it make the top 5? We'll decide in a quick second.
By the way, are we rating these based on the most amount of flux or the most entertaining, the most watchable situation?
Just the most in flux.
Okay.
1 being the most in flux, 5 being the least of the 5. So also I want to throw at you the Seahawks, who have Jalen Milroe, Drew Lock, and Sam Darnold. Obviously, Seattle looks to have Sam Darnold as QB1, but that one could be interesting, Diesel, when you look at the future, of the organization. And then the final one I'm going to throw at you before we make our top 5 is the Titans quarterback room. Really interesting depth chart in 2025. They just drafted Cam Ward, right? Mm-hmm. Brandon Allen, Tim Bale, and Will Levis. Will Levis is injured right now.
Have you seen the picture of Will Levis's shoulder?
That's nasty.
It is
gross. I don't ever want to see that picture again.
It's like the top of his shoulder was growing a tail.
So let me ask you this. The Titans, Diesel, they just drafted Cam Ward. By drafting Cam Ward, are they no longer in flux?
They're not in flux. Okay. We know who's gonna start for them.
So let's do top 5. We've went through each one like 9 or 10. Are we safe to say?
I'm gonna say Giants 1.
Okay. I don't hate that.
Browns 2. I don't even think the Seahawks are that much in flux.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
I think the Colts have to be 3.
Colts 3.
Because Anthony Richardson's just such a big question mark, man.
Outside of that, maybe Vikings 4.
Okay.
And
Saints 5?
Probably, yeah. I mean, Geno's safe as the starter in Las Vegas.
He is.
Cam's safe as the starter in Tennessee.
Minnesota, we put it 4. The Patriots are iffy. The Patriots might be like a 5B, right?
Yeah, I think they're gonna give Drake one more year to figure it out, and if you can't get it, bro, like you're gone.
That's what I'm saying. I think he gets 1
We're
year.
gonna draft another quarterback next year.
RJ says Russell Wilson probably Giants country. Let's ride. That's awful. I don't ever want to hear him say that again. So top 5 in flux. What you and I have landed on, Diesel, is the Saints at 5. You've got Tyler Shuck out of Louisville. You've got Spencer Rattler. The Vikings. The Vikings lost Sam Darnold. Does J.J. McCarthy, I think there's still a real question there. The Colts with Richardson and Daniel Jones, man, I would even say I'd be fine with bumping the Colts to 2 in some situations because I just think that's a quarterback room right now. I really would. I'd probably put Colts 2 if I had a dispute. Colts 3, Browns 2. I mean, my whole thing with the Browns, Diesel, is you've got so many quarterbacks. One of them's got to be good, right? Right? I mean, doesn't one of them have to pan out?
Yeah, if you can just get one of them to play B-level football, B-plus level football, you just might win a game or two this year.
You got 4 or 5 quarterbacks, and the Giants, kind of the same situation, except Diesel, the Giants are a little bit older in age at the quarterback position. I just don't know. I think these are the top 5. Giants, Browns, Colts, Vikings, Saints, the top quarterback rooms in flux. And just thankfully, my team's not on there. Your team's not on there, Tolos. If your team's on there, I'm sorry, but Diesel and I have serious doubts on that.
If you were going to have to pick between the Giants and the Browns based off of the LOL factor, who's number 1?
LOL factors Giants. I think just because of DeVito and Jackson Dart's personality.
Yeah.
Plus Russell Wilson, who's the older, calm, more serious guy.
He's like a youth pastor, man.
That's what I'm saying. Then you throw in Jameis. And it's what is that? Is the person that is the craziest quarterback room personality-wise that we've maybe ever seen. And Diesel, 2 of them are going to get cut unless they keep 3 quarterbacks, which I don't see them doing. Right?
Yeah, you better not cut DeVito, though. You might wind up with
you might be dead
with concrete shoes and be thrown into the East River. Things get wild.
Why is that guy
there.
missing a kneecap?
When we come back, Cole, we have football tomorrow. Real, and I say real with air quotes,
Let's
real
go. Let's
football
go.
tomorrow. Preseason barreling. We're heading straight for preseason football as well. What's going on in the NFL? Some NFL camp notes and so much more next on the Fan Upstate. If you were to add up all of the preseason games, Cole, over the course of a season, you might roughly equal one regular season games when it comes to viewership. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's time for the NFL to do something drastic to change the fact that nobody watches preseason football games. They're boring. There's no reason to watch outside of seeing your starter play a series or two, and then you turn it off and go about your life. It's Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. The ratings don't lie, Cole. The numbers simply aren't there to say that preseason games are watchable. They're simply not. And I think preseason games are valuable to the teams, so why not give people more reasons to tune in? Why play those starters deeper and deeper into preseason games? I know it's scary because you might get them hurt. Your thoughts?
I think the NFL could list out 150 other issues that would come ahead of preseason ratings. I don't think the NFL gives two rips about preseason
Well, it's
ratings.
not preseason rating. It's a broadcast that you're putting on television. You're spending the money to put a game together. You're spending the money to operate your stadiums. You're spending money to broadcast it on television, and no one is watching. You're probably losing money on these preseason games.
And they may be, but I would be willing to bet that 32 minutes into the first week of regular season, they've made all that money back. And I just don't think that the NFL has ever cared about preseason ratings, and I don't think they ever will. I simply, as a fan, I don't watch every preseason game. I do turn them on. I'll check in. It's not one of those I've got to sit on the couch and watch start to finish the Cowboys every preseason game. I don't care that much because what it is, it's a glorified practice. I don't want to go watch practice. I want to watch once the coaches know who's starting and at what positions, and I think the majority of fans feel the same way. Practice is fun, but guess what? Fans don't show up to practice. That's not what they want to see. They want to see the fireworks once the coaches have done their job and figured out who's going to start.
Well, if you want to compare it to the Hall of Fame game, last year being a little different, there were some weather problems, but the Hall of Fame game, which is our first exposure to NFL football of the year, which, by the way, is tomorrow. We'll have football on television. It's, Chargers and Lions tomorrow at 8 o'clock. That game usually draws between 4 and 8 million viewers. Pretty good numbers, way higher than preseason games. But there is one star, Cole, that really wants to play in the preseason games, and he wants to play a lot. Tua Tagovailoa, one of those guys that, I think probably has a lot of reason to not want to play in the preseason game because he is so injury prone. He says he definitely appreciate the game reps so that they can gel more before the regular season opener. Here's his quote: "I definitely love to get more preseason snaps in, no doubt. It's a new season. It's a new year. Got to get things tuned in with the guys again, all of that. I don't think I'm better than anyone on this team or think I'm too cool to get reps in during preseason games." So there's a star right there who wants to be put in the game more often.
And Tua's the last one that needs to be playing preseason. Tua needs to be bubble wrapped on a shelf like a Barbie box, right? Like the Ken doll until the season starts.
He shouldn't play till week 8. He's so injury prone.
T Swizzle says on the YouTube stream, in other words, we're not going to Tolo. That's pretty good. Pretty good way to put it there, T Swizzle. We're going to check in. We're going to see what's happening, but we're not going to turn it on and leave it on. Tua's interesting because it is a new team. I find myself, Diesel, and maybe this is a bad thing. I find myself kind of not giving up more and more on Tua, but I find myself kind of drifting away from my former belief that Tua was going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. And, of course, a lot of that has to do with what's happened to him in injury.
Can't stay healthy.
No, he can't. And like Tua, dude, you've been in the NFL for how many years now? And you're pleading to play in the preseason because of why? Like, give me – so if I'm any coach on the Dolphins coaching staff, I want to know why. Why do you think it's beneficial? Do you want me to go out there and let you bounce your head off the rug so you can go to concussion protocol early? Is that what it is? I don't know. I'm not saying preseason's not valuable, Diesel, at all, but I do think it's very important to look at preseason as case by case.
Well, I mean, I would say why even start the starters at all? If you know who your starter is going to be, and these coaches know, we just went through the quarterback rooms, why not sit your known number ones, not have them play at all, not even have them dress? Heck, put them in a room where they can sit there and watch their teammates play and chatter it up, and we get a sense of their personalities rather than having them go through the rigmarole of putting on the uniform, trotting out there to throw the ball once, hand it off twice, and boom, you're done for the day.
So it's interesting. So here's my philosophy on starters when it comes to preseason games, Diesel. Again, I've never been an NFL coach. I don't think one day I ever will be, but I'll tell you this. If I'm a coach and I know, like let's take, for example, the Giants, right? Brian Daboll has already said Russ is the starter day one. There's no doubt. He's a starter. So how do I view that philosophy in terms of if I already know who my starter is? What do I want my starter to accomplish in a span of 3 games to where he's ready for game one? I don't want my starter out there starting 3 whole games. I don't want my starter not starting at all in the preseason. I think, again, going back to there has to be a case-by-case scenario and evaluation. I want my starter, who I know is going to start week 1 and have to start hopefully 17 games or more, Diesel, I want them to be ramped up each week. So I'm not going to go play them week 1 in the preseason and then sit them the next 2 weeks. To me, that doesn't make sense. I might play them 5 snaps or no snaps week 1. Week 2, he's going to play a little bit more. Week 3, he might play a whole half in week 3, and then we're full go week 1. That's my philosophy on if you already know who your starter is going to be.
That's a good plan. Give them a series, give them a quarter, give them a half. That should be how they ramp up. It will also give you more reason for the fans to get excited as you get closer and closer to week number 1. It would get these guys going. Again, I just don't see the point in the way they handle things now, which is the opposite. Let's give them a series or 2 or 3 in the first preseason game and then ramp them down as we get closer to the season. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But to me, it would be more valuable to get more live game rep footage of the guys who are your 2s and 3s to figure out how you want to move them around the depth chart rather than, getting meaningless footage of your QB1 handing the ball off. I mean, imagine last year if Aaron Rodgers had blown out his ACL or whatever it was, Achilles, in the first preseason snap. Like, he didn't even make it to a regular season game if that had been the case.
And that's why I say it has to be case by case, because with a guy like Aaron or Russ, they're not going to see a lot of field preseason if I'm the coach. Now, I will say, Diesel, to kind of expound on that last point, look, you've got guys 2, 3s, and 4s, especially 3s and 4s, who might not be on your roster, that you need to, as a coach, give them a fair shot to go show other teams why they're deserving to be signed later on in the year, right? Or a week later, or 2 weeks later, or next year. That tape for those guys is really important. Tommy DeVito might not, be the quarterback in New York for the next 2 to 3 years, might not be ever, but Tommy DeVito does need some film this season if he wants to go get a job somewhere else. So while we as fans don't look at it as like this great spectacle, invite people over, order the chicken wings and pizza, preseason games are valuable to a lot of position groups out there.
What do you learn in a preseason game that you don't learn in joint practices? Because a lot of teams are doing joint practices. Why not just allow fans to come in and watch those?
And I think joint practices are beneficial, Diesel. But again, just from hearing coaches in the past and having talked to coaches about that, I think coaches, for the most part, want to see how guys react in game situations. By the time preseason football starts, to your point, a coach should know that this guy can do this or can't do this, right? So a coach, to your question, let's take, for example, Hunter Renfrow. First year in Carolina, under, a second-year regime. You know what Hunter Renfrow can do by the time you get to the preseason. Dave Canales already today knows what Hunter Renfrow can do. But guess what Dave Canales hasn't done? He's never coached Hunter Renfrow or any other player in the NFL, so he doesn't know how Hunter Renfrow is going to respond in games when they face adversity, when they make a mistake, when they drop a ball, when they fumble. And those things are so important. And again, I know that might sound like coaches speak a little bit, but I'm just telling you what I've heard coaches say for a long time. And I think that joint practices, to your point, are very important. They're crucial. I like joint practices because it's physical, right? You get tired of beating up on the same guy all the time. You do. But when you get out there and the lights come on, even though it's not a real game, I think you see from a coach's standpoint how guys handle themselves and how they respond to certain situations.
Well, I like joint practices because you can sort of get a sense if you're going up against the same guy or two or three guys day in and day out, rep after rep, you start to get a sense of what their strengths and weaknesses are, which is not something that you're going to get over the course of a regular season. You don't get to play the same team, day in and day out. You don't get to learn that the guy opposite you is better going to his left than he is going to his right. So I think doing it that way, getting reps against another team,
sure,
I think it really points out where somebody's deficiencies are as a player or where their strengths are as a player. Some more camp notes from all around the NFL. We'll start locally right here with the Carolina Panthers. Dabo Swinney seen lurking the sidelines this week, Cole. Earlier this week, he visited Hunter Renfrow at Panthers training camp, and Hunter came over to him and got a couple notes. And Dabo talked about the relationship that he's got with Hunter Renfrow and how his oldest son is buddies with Hunter, and they were in each other's weddings. So, a fun little moment there to have Hunter just up the road in Charlotte, and Dabo was able to get up there and go see him. Rumor has it that Hunter was really dominating his reps in Monday's practice. Defensive tackle Bobby Brown III and punter Sam Martin were both activated from the non-football injury list. Little note there for the Carolina Panthers. And Monday, a scuffle broke out between Chuba Hubbard and linebacker Trevin Wallace, though Chuba did laugh it off in his media availability. He had a big old knot in the middle of his forehead from a shot that he took from Trayvon Wallace, and they said that has resolved itself. All things are good there. Look out west. Devin White, wide receiver for the Raiders, is apparently returning back to form. And that guy was good back in the day. He was an All-Pro in 2020, a Pro Bowler in 2021. Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely suffered a small fracture in his foot at the end of yesterday's practice. He's expected to return for the season opener against Buffalo. And Trey Hendrickson was in the building at Bengals training camp on Wednesday. He hasn't signed a deal yet, but he has ended his holdout.
That's big. That's big. Probably the biggest story other than Micah Parsons right now. I mean, that is a big story, and we'll see how it plays out. I just hope for Trey's sake, man. Like they were talking about it on the Rich Eisen show. I hope a deal gets done. I really do. They're still going to make tons of money, but, man, you got to kind of do right by those guys. He's one of the best, if not at his position.
The reason you just saw me shiver was, in case you hadn't seen it, I put that photo of Will Levis's shoulder on the rundown, and I scrolled past it. Oh, it's so gross.
It's awful.
Oh, God.
Diesel, I want to bring some fascinating audio, and I mean fascinating audio to the airwaves. You and I and other Tolos out there have talked a lot about why NASCAR doesn't have the ratings. And we've thrown out all these different reasons, right? Shannon Sharp had Bubba Wallace on his podcast. And I think Bubba Wallace just did a magnificent job of answering the question as to why NASCAR doesn't have the popularity, especially from the youth level. That audio next. This is really interesting audio if you haven't heard it already. Shannon Sharp had Bubba Wallace, who just won the Brickyard last Sunday, on his podcast. And Diesel, you and I, other Tolos out there, have asked the question many times, what does NASCAR need to do to regain its popularity? Well, I think Bubba Wallace answers the question. In this audio, we react. Here's what he had to say.
How do we get other minorities interested in NASCAR?
Oh man, it's such a good question. I think winning on Sundays definitely helps. For me, that gets like the stake in the ground, that gets the roots in the ground, right, and creates a foundation. How we make getting started in motorsports mainstream. It is so underground. It doesn't matter if you're trying to be an F1 driver, IndyCar driver, NASCAR driver. The go-kart tracks are not some, hey, show up here and have a good time. It is underground, and it costs a lot of money. Okay. And so I think it's understanding there's probably so many kids out there that I know there's so many kids out there that want to race and have no idea that there's a go-kart track or a racing facility within 10 miles of their house, right? And it's about the exposure. It's about being comfortable to go out there and just watch, become a fan, learn as much as you can. And then when you build up the confidence, the courage, you go ask somebody, how do I do this? How do I become this? The first thing people are going to say is money. The way that the sport is evolved now, like the driver that has a lot of talent and no money versus the driver who has a lot of money and no talent, he is getting the opportunity first over the guy with talent. And so I hate that it's that way, but everything's gotten expensive these days. But motorsports, you're racing cars at the end of the day. It's expensive. Yes. And so understanding that, figuring out how to get your foot in the door, but understanding that it is so underground, you have to do your research. I encourage everybody to get on Google Maps or whatever it is and type in racetracks nearby and go and enjoy it, because there are so many different forms of racing to get started in. And everybody wants to be a driver. I get that. But there's only 36 of us that get to do it in the world. Like, it's hard. Not everybody can be a driver, but you can be a part of a race team. There are so many opportunities that I think all of us can do a better job of showcasing. Hey, this might be an avenue for you. This might be an avenue for you. Like, come be a part of our team.
Diesel, the driver with more money but little talent will get an opportunity before the driver with a lot of talent but little money. I think Bubba Wallace just answered the question that we've all been asking as to why NASCAR doesn't have the popularity it once did. It's expensive.
Yeah, extremely high barrier to entry. It's real expensive to get in. Here's the answer, Cole. You just hire some of those kids that wash out of the University of Georgia football team, put them on the track. They'll go out there and win you every dang race of the season, because that's what they do down there in Georgia. They drive fast.
But you know what's crazy about it? You and I right now can go pick up a basketball for pretty cheap. Right now. You and I can go pick up a bat and a baseball and a glove for pretty cheap. Well, you and I can go throw a football for less than $10 probably if we wanted to.
Yeah.
You and I can't go race cars in any sense of form for any kind of affordable amount of money, and I think Bubba Wallace hit it. That's the problem. It's way too expensive to enter, so the younger audience can't relate to it because they're not doing it at a young age. That's the issue.
Well, there's a good part of it that it's not culturally ingrained in a lot of people anymore to go out and race cars at a young age. It's not something you do. And he said it. You go to Myrtle Beach and you go down to the Grand Prix and you drive around for a couple of hours. Boom, that might be all the racing that you do. But there's got to be a way to show kids that driving cars or working on cars as part of that team is a viable career path. It's ingrained into us from 5 years old that you can make a career out of playing football and basketball and baseball and even golf, which is also a very high barrier to entry kind of sport, but that pales in comparison to how expensive it is to get into NASCAR. Maybe the answer, Cole, is after-school programs, getting kids into go-kart racing and something like that. It's hard to say, man.
The reality is, Diesel, if you don't grow up doing something and you're not ingrained in it, you're not going to have that passion for it.
Right.
And there are less people growing up around cars. That's just a fact.
Prime example, I grew up in North Carolina. I didn't grow up around a place where ice hockey was a thing, but I watched the Mighty Ducks movies when I was a kid, and I thought, that's awesome. I want to get into hockey. The problem was there was nowhere to go play hockey. Ergo, I never went to play hockey. And it's just not something I grew up doing. When we come back, Cole, has hell frozen over? Because Paul Feinbaum is a fan of adding Clemson to the SEC now. What did Paul say? Why the turn? We'll get to that next. Clemson fans don't typically have warm, fuzzy feelings when it comes to the mouth of the South. Paul Feinbaum, he's taken plenty of shots at Clemson and Dabo Swinney over the years, Cole, but it seems Paul's opinion is starting to turn a little bit on the Clemson Tigers. Yeah, Paul has needled Clemson quite a bit. A couple of years ago, when there were rumors that Clemson and Florida State had conversations with the SEC, Paul called it ridiculous. Paul said it didn't stand even a 1% chance of ever coming to fruition. He was a little more complimentary of Clemson in that quote than he was of Florida State. He said, Clemson is Clemson, but, Florida State doesn't really add anything. Nobody wants you. But as these reports keep surfacing, Cole, and we asked Bill Bender about it yesterday, that North Carolina is a prime target for the SEC in expansion in the future. Clemson's name keeps getting brought up in that conversation. The ACC's grant of rights falls year over year over year, and a lot of people are looking at 2030 as the year that it is inevitable that multiple members from the ACC, bolt, couple of them go into the SEC, and Paul now is kind of in favor of the Clemson Tigers joining the Southeastern Conference.
You know what's interesting? Paul Feinbaum ebbs and flows Diesel as a lot of talking heads do, so that's no big surprise there. But I think Paul Feinbaum kind of just goes with the crowd. What do I mean by that? Clemson, 3 years ago, came off of the mountaintop of winning national championships, and when they did, it just so happened, Diesel, that at the same time the portal was blowing up, NIL was blowing up, and Dabo Swinney was against it. Well, what did the ebb and flow do then? Everybody started bashing Clemson again and calling Dabo an idiot, and Clemson wasn't popular like they were, 9 months previous to those comments about Clemson University and the football program. And then you have Paul Feinbaum and those experts who have, like us, who said Dabo's got to adapt, Dabo's got to do this, Dabo's got to do that. Well, you fast forward a couple of years, and Dabo Swinney's program is in prime position to go do what? Win a national championship because of why? Well, he hasn't used the entire used the portal to build his entire roster. He's stayed true to what he's always said he was going to do. He has one guy from the portal and Tristan Smith that might be of impact, and all of a sudden you look at the favorites in college football in 2025 and it's, Clemson looks really loaded, and all the Josh Pates of the world are really high on Clemson again just a year or so after bashing Clemson. And guess what Paul Feinbaum is doing here? Paul Feinbaum's just falling in line. He's getting in line and just marching up the same mountain. It's the easy thing to do. Paul Feinbaum's never leading the charge.
Yeah, it's populism. Paul's not stupid, okay? Paul Feinbaum is a populist. His job is to fan the flames of the most popular opinion, whether it's leaning one direction or the other direction. It is his job to have popular opinions. I saw an interview the other day popped up on Instagram, and I promise you there's a point telling you the story. It was an interview with Ozzy Osbourne from back in the day, and he was talking about how crazy it was that Metallica had changed from a thrash band to what they were on the album Load, which was kind of a groove-based, almost having a little bit of twang and country in them. And he said they were brilliant for making this decision to go the opposite direction. He goes, there's a lot of artists who try to pretend like we're not in a business. Like, this is a business. Our job is to sell records. And if you're not trying to sell records, what are you doing here? And to bring the example back to Paul Feinbaum, our job as radio hosts, Cole, is to get ratings. Now, as much as people will say, oh, no, your job is to tell the truth, your job is to call it like you see it. Yeah, you don't want to be disingenuous. You don't want to lie. You don't want to say things that you don't believe that are true. But ultimately, Cole, we are all judged and employed. We're all on contract every couple of years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. We all come back up for contract negotiation. And I don't know how well it's going to go, Cole, if we go into Mark Hendricks and Steve Sinacrapi's office and they say, guys, your ratings are in the dump. And you say, well, yeah, but look how right I was all the time. Look how true to myself and true to my own opinions I was all the time. That's how you get fired. That's how you go work at a gas station instead of doing radio, because our job is to get ratings. Our job is to bring as many listeners as we possibly can to our outlets so that our sales team can go sell it and make money off of it. This is a business.
Yeah, and look, Paul Feinbaum, with his comments about Clemson, getting back to the reason Paul Feinbaum and Clemson are linked together, Diesel, he says that Clemson's the one that should move to the SEC, right? Not Florida State. And am I quoting that right by Paul?
Well, I'll read the quote here.
Okay.
I'm sure there's audio out there somewhere, but we don't have the audio. We just have the written quote. He said this on the McElroy and Kublik show on Monday. Quote, I might have said some time back that I didn't think that Clemson was really in a good position. I think they're probably in a better position now, only because in this world that we live in, it's about buzz, it's about sizzle, and it's about matchups. And you put Clemson against anyone on the upper level of the SEC, and it's a far better game than it would be if you put Florida State against them. And I know that's contradictory to the earlier card, Virginia, because they don't really bring much buzz to anyone other than in an academic presidential setting. So that's Paul right there saying we don't want Florida State because there's no buzz about them right now.
There's not.
Or Riz, as the kids say, if they still say Riz. I don't know. You're one of the youngest people I know, Cole. Do the kids still say Riz?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Virginia has no Riz.
Aura is popular now.
Florida State has no aura. Clemson's got the buzz. Everybody's talking about Clemson right now. And so Paul is saying, you know what? And this could change again in 2 weeks because, like you said, Paul Feinbaum is a populist. His opinions change constantly.
And it could change because I don't know if you remember last week, Diesel, I brought this up in terms of what this new landscape of college football now is. And I think it was at ACC kickoff talking about how it is more like the NFL than ever. College football is more of a year-to-year league than it's ever been. Mm-hmm. Florida State doesn't have the popularity right now. They could next year. I mean, August 1st, 2026, when we're sitting here. Okay, today's not August 1st. Today's the 30th of July. Sorry about that. But July 31st or 30th, whatever. I don't know what day it is today. The end of July. Next year, if Florida State has a good season, Florida State trending upward. It doesn't take long, is my point, to get Florida State back there.
If Florida State's selling out all of its I'm guessing here 75,000 seats at Doak Campbell Stadium, and if they're beating SEC teams that they book to come in there for the next 2 or 3 years, then Paul Feinbaum might change his mind and say, you know what, it'd be a great idea for us to have a second team in the state of Florida because we can't let the Big 12 work their way in, and we got to crush Miami down there in the ACC. We'd love to have Florida State in here because they've got all this buzz. They don't have the buzz right now.
And by the way, is it not wild to think about the fact that Florida State just doesn't do it for us anymore?
Right.
Like, I grew up.
One of the best uniforms, arguably top 2, if not the number 1 pregame tradition entrance in college football. I absolutely love it, and a tremendous amount of history.
I grew up watching college football, and the time frame that I was growing up falling in love with the sport, I was watching Florida State tear down their goalpost. I was watching Florida State put people in the league year after year after year, and to see how far they've fallen, it's like, man, we're to the point now where Florida State just doesn't have that buzz. By the way, real quick, Diesel, before it doesn't become new news anymore, you and I just got an email, and we'll get back on track here in a second. But breaking news in Charlotte, the media polls that you and I voted in, defending ACC champion Clemson, speaking of the Tigers, has been selected as the preseason favorite to win the 2025 ACC title. Again, more than 180 media members that you and I were 2 of those 180. Clemson was picked to win the ACC by 167 voters. Miami was picked to finish second with 7 votes. They had 7 votes, obviously, to finish number 1. SMU 3, Georgia Tech 4, and Louisville 5. That is the top 5.
I'm
preseason
surprised
poll.
so many people are down on Louisville this year. I was a little higher on the Cardinals than most.
Media projected order of finish: Clemson 1, Miami 2, SMU 3, Georgia Tech 4, Louisville 5. So that breaking news is on our Twitter and Facebook page at the Fan Upstate.
To continue what's going on here, we're talking about Paul Feinbaum coming around to the cause of maybe adding Clemson to the SEC. Again, it's a guy who has been openly against Clemson for a long, long time. He now talks about what would happen about trying to get the votes and trying to get Clemson into the SEC. He said the question for every one of these schools within a state that has SEC schools is, what is the position? I've already talked about Florida State. Would South Carolina try to stand in Clemson's way? And if they did, could they and would they be able to stop them?
Read that last part. Could who stand in Clemson?
Could South Carolina stand in Clemson's way?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Getting into the SEC, meaning
because they're already in state.
Meaning Florida may be in favor of it, Georgia may be in favor of it, Kentucky may be in favor of it, but would South Carolina try to block it?
Well, you've already got because they're already here.
Right.
You. Yeah.
And they would certainly try to campaign with other athletic directors and try to get in their ears and say, no, you got to keep Clemson out of the SEC. We can't have them here, which I think would be a terrible idea. I think
it'd be terrible for South Carolina to block them?
Correct. I think it would be a terrible idea for South Carolina. And I don't know, a lot of Gamecock fans say absolutely not. We don't want SEC. We don't want Clemson in our conference. And I think that's because the money is the only thing they still hold over Clemson's head. They can say, look at us, we're getting $50, $60 million a year, and you're just down there getting $35, $40 million a year. We got that money, SEC. And as of right now, that's what they got.
To try to figure out how to play devil's advocate of that, Diesel, why South Carolina fans would and should want Clemson to stay in the ACC, I think the biggest reason would be just because if you look at the facts, and I know the tide might be turning, but Clemson's owned South Carolina. Well, guess what you have to do in order to make the conference championship game? You have to beat the teams you play. And Clemson has owned South Carolina on the football field more times than not. So I just think when you look at the presence of South Carolina, the state, with them being in the SEC, and being able to claim the SEC as, SEC country in the entire state of South Carolina, and then all of a sudden Clemson comes in and just blocks them, right? Unless that tide just dramatically turns.
Yeah.
I can see why some fans wouldn't want them in.
South Carolina's won. Obviously, we all know they've won 2 out of the last 3, but Clemson has won 8 out of the last 10.
Yeah.
So you don't want to have to go through Clemson to get to an SEC championship game. That would be real bad for you, South Carolina Gamecock fans. But, Cole, if we want to make this a premier rivalry in a national sense, that's the way you do it. You make it a conference game. I mean, yes, there's a lot of heat. There's a lot of hatred between these two teams. And if both of these two teams are good, which doesn't happen in most years, then you've got some national intrigue. How you make this game matter to everyone is you have it matter when it comes to SEC championship game appearance.
Yeah,
that's how it means more.
It would definitely up the stakes, right, if it were a conference game. And look, to your point, regionally, locally, it's still as big as it's ever been. But when you do talk about urgency and upping the stakes and how to make it go from what it is now. Like, for example, think about SEC conference games currently that are rivals, right? Alabama-Auburn. Alabama-Auburn's probably looked at by most people as the number one rival in the country, Diesel, and maybe in college football. And a lot of that has to do with because, yes, they're in the same state, but they're also in the same conference. So if you were to look, I think Alabama-Auburn would be the closest comparison you could use when you talk about Clemson moving to the SEC. If Clemson could just do what Auburn's done and be dominant at times, not lately, in the SEC, I think you could get that rivalry. Now, it takes both being good. Alabama-Auburn didn't become the rivalry that it is because one was good. I think South Carolina, I've been high on Shane Beamer since day one. I think South Carolina's on their way and obviously trending in the right direction. But, from a conference standpoint, I can see why a lot of Clemson fans wouldn't like it. But I also believe, Diesel, that in the heart of hearts of a lot of Clemson fans out there, if you want to prove yourself consistently year after year that you are the best team and you're in the SEC, you've got every opportunity to do so in the Southeastern Conference.
If you were the athletic director at South Carolina, or if you were the president of the university, so if you're Jeremiah Donati or you're Michael, you're going to have to help me out with his last name, Emeritus, the president of the university, what kind of phone calls and emails are you fielding from Gamecock fans? If this ever came to it, and the conversation was, should we add? What kind of phone calls are you having with your big-time donors? Are they calling you and saying, block them at all costs? Or you South Carolina Gamecock fans, you tell me, 844-326-3663. Would you be calling up the president of the university and the athletic director saying, block them or let them in?
I think from the South Carolina perspective, if you're Jeremiah Donati, Diesel, you have to look at it from the standpoint of how does it benefit us? It doesn't matter what Clemson, it doesn't matter about them. Like, how does it benefit us not only now, but how does it benefit us 10, 20, 30 years from now? And those are the conversations that would be had if it were to come to fruition, or even closer to a little bit of a possibility, Diesel, is if you're South Carolina, you have to have those conversations of how is Clemson coming to the SEC benefiting us? Because if you have those conversations and you come to the realization that it's not going to benefit you, then you do block them. That's above my pay grade to figure out if it benefits them, if there's a 50-50 split or if it's 60-40.
Yeah.
But I think that's the decision you have to come to first and foremost.
If Clemson's coming in with a recent national championship or a recent appearance or 3 years in a row of playoff appearances, you have to invite him in, because then you get to have that prestige rub off on you. Are you telling me that South Carolina has not benefited at all from the prestige and the attention of Texas joining the conference, or from Texas A&M joining the conference, or Oklahoma joining the conference? There's a lot of, what was the word you used? You didn't use Riz.
Aura.
There's a lot of aura around those programs. And when you're on the same field as them, a little bit of that aura rubs off on you. It benefits you. It certainly has benefited you financially, because adding those teams has upped the media rights money. So you're telling me Clemson doesn't up the media rights money, and you don't see the direct benefit of a couple extra $1 million a year?
And kind of going back to that point, Diesel, being on the field with them, as long as you're competitive, helps. Now, you could say, well, Cole, if you're Arkansas and you're always on the field with Texas and Bama and whoever else, maybe they haven't benefited as much as they would have liked to. But my point being on the field with them, one, and then two, being able to compete on the field with them, right? So I really do look at this situation and see both sides of, I could see how it could help South Carolina in a big way. But I also could see, like JB says, bring him on. He's a Gamecock fan. I also could see how, Diesel, when you talk about like a certain medium, eventually you run out of space in a certain medium. Eventually you fall to the 11 to 1 a.m. show and you're not relevant on the station, right? You're the late night show. Nobody listens to you. You keep stockpiling the Clemsons and Texas and Bamas of the world and just keep on. All of a sudden, your power conference, it's your power conference. And then where do you fall is South Carolina if you're not competing at the top?
Texter, this is RJ, says, as a child of the 90s, the Bowden Bowl was at its peak. When I was a kid, it was one of the games you circled on the calendar every year.
Yeah.
Another texter says, Clemson can kiss playing in the SEC championship game every year like they do in the ACC goodbye, because the SEC is no cakewalk like the ACC is. Let's see here. Tolo J. Butane says Clemson is a perennial 3 to 4 win team in the SEC. The Vanderbilt of South Carolina hurts the brand. Block them.
So it looks like the South Carolina Gamecock fans, other than JB, are on the block 'em train, right? Block 'em. Don't let them in. That's the general. It's interesting though. One day it might come to fruition. Who knows? Maybe it's just a good segment for radio. Speaking of a good segment for radio, Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. Always a good segment. If you have not done so, check out the stream where you can see Grayson Mann in person live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's next. Well, Clemson starts fall camp tomorrow. No big deal, right? Nobody cares, right? Wrong. Grayson Mann is going to give you Clemson fans out there and Gamecock fans, because you have no other choice. You're here. You're going to turn it on and leave it on. A little preview of what's to come, what to watch, and what to expect in these next few weeks. TigerNet.com's Grayson Mann joins us right now on the Fan Upstate. Grayson, we're going to dive into Clemson, rightfully so, but let's start the conversation the same way Diesel and I started the conversation today. At 3 o'clock, we ranked the quarterback rooms in the NFL that were in flux the most, 1 to 5. We had Giants 1, Browns 2, Colts 3, Vikings 4, and Saints 5. Your New England Patriots were not in the list. You and I were talking earlier today about what Drake May did in training camp. Are you a little bit scared that we're expecting too much calmness, I guess, in this Patriots quarterback room, or do you think Drake May is going to silence the haters in 2025?
Man, it's a much different conversation for the last few years, especially with Mac Jones being the quarterback of the Patriots. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of me having to be sort of the standard bearer for the Patriots community, sort of carrying the torch to the season. Man, I can't wait for football to start so we can stop talking about Mac Jones throwing these checkdowns in camp and these ugly picks. I know he's got it in him, and then proven slowly but painfully over time that he didn't, and that's why we're sitting here talking about Drake May. I think all the intangibles are there. I think that given the circumstances last year, an inadequate coaching staff, offensive line, receiving room, what have you, played pretty well. And now you add Mike Vrabel, Stephon Diggs, and a litany of talent for terms of a rookie class. I expect a big year 2 jump, and I think New England will be, at the very least, in that hunt graphic as we go down the season. As long as they're competitive and it's week 17, I'm watching a 425 Fox game, and they're like, let's look at the playoff picture, and I see New England as part of the in the hunt group, I'm going to be a happy guy, man. I'm going to be a happy guy.
Grayson, what flavor of chicken wings are you bringing home to plop down on the couch and watch tomorrow's Hall of Fame game?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I think I will be taking myself to Chick-fil-A, actually, after fall camp, and I will be eating some food from there, kind of saving myself from that spot until Thursday night, make it a special occasion. I'm not a big chicken wings guy. I feel like that's kind of a hot take.
Oh, wow. Very hot.
Out
Thanks,
there. I
Grayson.
enjoy it.
Good time. Good interview, man. Appreciate you. Talk to you next week. Good stuff.
I enjoy it. It's just not my first choice.
That is a hot take. A very, very hot take. What's not a hot take, Grayson, that just came in to our inbox a few minutes ago, Clemson at the top of the preseason poll. The media predicted order of finish: Miami 2, SMU 3, Georgia Tech 4, and Louisville 5. Is that how you saw it playing out?
Well, I think you and I have talked about the Miami factor of all of this, and I would flip-flop 4 and 5 and put them in the 2 and 3 hole, and then I'd take Miami at 5 and put SMU at 4. I just am not a big Miami fan, not a big Miami believer, especially when it comes to Mario Cristobal. We had said this in Charlotte in the segment you guys graciously had me on. It was such a cool setup over there up in uptown Charlotte. But Miami's just one team that for some reason is the media darling of the preseason, and then they become the enemy of the postseason. It's almost like they avoid it. It's an allergy or something that they get in like shock and drop to the floor if they get closer to the high stakes of that setting. And there's always some wacky games or two that pop up and prevent the Hurricanes from doing anything worth a darn with this group. So I got to see it first. And until then, I will continue to underplay this Miami hype train.
Grayson, it felt like a little bit of Inception. Well, last week we played the video or the audio from the video of Dabo on a radio show reacting to Bill Belichick's answer to your question, which was just so many layers of this. What was your reaction to watching Dabo react to that?
It was honestly really cool. I mean, it's tough sometimes in this like business, especially in a moment like talking to Belichick. Sorry, my phone just fell out of my pocket. I was hoping something like that didn't happen, honestly, when I'm asking that question to him. But it's sort of those moments where you just kind of take a step back. It was a long 2 days, and you go, well, that was just really cool. And so the appreciation for the event, the moment, and then to have Sweeney that angle, I would probably, if there's time permitting tomorrow, I know there's going to be a lot of weigh-in questions, following camp questions for him. But maybe what's Dabo's reaction on that side of things after having time to reflect might be cool. It's just interesting that that's kind of the dynamic of this conference now, to have Belichick, of all people, leading the charge at UNC.
Grayson, camp tomorrow for the 2025 Clemson Tigers. We all know that you go in with a notepad that has 3 items, 1, 2, 3, in terms of what you're watching, right? But I want to know, for Clemson fans out there, what do you think Clemson fans should be most intrigued about hearing, because they're not going to be standing there watching as the media will be and the coaches will be. But what do you think Clemson fans should be intrigued by or interested in the most as camp starts?
I think the buzzword people should be looking for, Cole, when they start to open up Twitter, you start to try to research what the reactions are to fall camp. I think the buzzword, and this is something that I'll be looking for, is energy. Because I remember last year, the energy day one felt very lackadaisical. And I think it kind of paved the way for the up and down nature of the season last year, where it's a younger team, football's back. Wow, we're so excited to be here. And that kind of reflected in the teams, I think, the way they kind of carried out the operation that we got to witness. And from what I understand is that got reprimanded and then thrown into up downs the next day. But it sort of was, they had to be told, you got to have this focus, guys. And I think that was reflected in the Georgia loss, where a lack of focus has ultimately put them out before they could really get into it. So for this group that we've mentioned all offseason, the adults are in the room, both in the head coaching room, or excuse me, both the coaching staff and within this offense and defense with a bunch of returning players, a lot of veteran production coming back to this group. What's that energy like day one? How focused is this group? That'll pave the way, I think, for how the season should play out. That's number one on the top of the list.
Grayson, with as many veterans as there are on this team, it feels like most of the position battles are set, and we're not going to see any dynamics as far as roster and the likely 1, 2, 3 on the depth chart. What position groups are you following? What are you looking at in terms of a chance to maybe see some shuffling?
I think running back's probably number one, but I do think safety and tight end are going to be interesting battles as well. Those are the three right now. I think in terms of the left guard spot, I think that's going to be Harris Sewell's spot to lose, just to the nature of his versatility and the playing time that he usually gets when somebody was injured. He was usually your first guy in. I feel like that's a natural transition for him, although there'll likely be some competition there. But I think the more appealing spots, what's happening with Adam Randall, what's happening with Gideon Davidson, who replaces R.J. Mickens, and then the tight end one, Stool leaves a vacuum of production. Who steps up into that hole? I like Christian Bentaker. A lot of people like Olsen Pat Henry to fill that spot. I don't think that's a deficiency position by any means. I think it's just personal preference, depending on who you ask. So there's a lot of talent within these spots that need a gap of proven veteran leadership, if you want to call it that, or just some extra spark. I think Clemson, if you had to list problem number one, it's probably reestablishing a ground attack, and that starts with someone maybe like Adam Randall day one tomorrow.
Kind of want to piggyback on the tight end conversation. With Cade Klubnik having such a plethora of options at wide receiver, Grayson, in 2025, does it seem like we're just kind of not like dismissing the tight end position? You talked about, who could step up and be that, safety valve kind of guy for Cade. Do you feel like that maybe, even though the wide receiver core is just stacked, the tight end position in your mind still holds a lot of value? Because when you look at Clemson teams over the years that were able to get over the hump, they had pretty good tight ends those years.
I think it's going to be very important, and I think Stool brought a presence last year, not maybe as dynamic in my eyes as maybe some believed him to be, and I think potentially you've seen some highlights in Kansas City. Maybe he's found that extra step with Patrick Mahomes in some training camp highlights, but overall, I do think that, and Sweeney has relayed this as well, is that Christian Bentancur might be the most athletic tight end that Clemson's ever signed. And that's also raving about the talent of an Olsen Pat Henry or a Josh Sapp. He's someone that when I turn on the high school tape screams Evan Ingram to me when we talk about Christian Bentancur. Someone that's got a huge frame, but for some reason is really, I think, slippery in space and can make plays and is really athletic. It's one of those things where you'd almost mistake him to be this massive receiver if he didn't tell you already that you were a tight end, and it says on the film as it introduces it, tight end Christian Bentancur. So I think that's a good sign for Clemson to have that extra option out there. And as well, both of them are pretty good blockers. So I think it's going to be a real fascinating battle. And I would love to hear from Kyle Richardson in this next 3 to 4 weeks about where things are headed. Is it going to be more of a 2 tight end situation? Can Clemson opt to go to multiple spots personnel-wise where they can split it out 4 receivers? Or maybe they can get 2 tight ends, go a little 2010 Patriots with a Hernandez-Gruck combo that was unstoppable back in the day. Maybe they have something in store, and we're going to find out here pretty soon.
Grayson, let's look a little farther into the future. And Clemson just got a commit from Naeem Burrows, a really good wide receiver for the 2026 class. Is Clemson going to be able to ride him back to that wide receiver U moniker? Is he that good?
Yeah, I think when Clemson got these 3 receivers back in the spring, and for Burrows, this was more of a shutting it down statement. It's almost like you have to do a second commitment in that sense, where you commit and then you shut it down. And so for a lot of these guys, there's still plenty of schools poking around, and that's in the case of Shavar Young right now, a 3-star cornerback that Clemson's had since August. So their team's going to be continuing to poke around and see if they can sway that in another direction. It's almost like the video game where you have enough points, might as well throw it out there. And so for Clemson, these 3 receivers, I think, carry that momentum that Tyler Grisham has gotten in the last several years, where you get guys like Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. You're able to get the Dutch Fort product and Antonio Williams. I do think that he doesn't get enough credit, and I think probably is starting to now, especially with the production that we anticipate to get from someone like TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco. But then you bring in these 3 guys, Burrows, Salmon, and Gordon Sellers from Providence Day, or Charlotte, Providence Day. Man, those are some 3 talented cats Clemson's got coming in.
Grayson, with the current receiving core, I've asked you to do this before. I'm going to ask you to do this again. Look into your magic 8 ball, and when the season is over, regardless of the outcome, in terms of what Clemson did or didn't do, this core is impressive, and there's going to be some NFL guys on this core already on the roster, obviously, but some of these guys are going to go pro. If I search on Google Clemson wide receiver stats after the season has ended, 1 through 5-ish with Moore and even Tristan Smith, the portal acquisition, how is this going to shake up in terms of what the production is from this wide receiver group after the season's over in your mind? So
do you want like a kind of a guesstimation?
Who not in terms of actual yardage, but who finishes 1, who finishes 5? How do you see him? Who's Cade's favorite target? Who has the most yards? Who has the least? Because it's a really deep group.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're a deep group, and I think each can do a valuable thing. So I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up, because I think number 5 is going to be Tristan Smith. And that's not a knock on him. Absolutely not. Just I think that they have a specific vision for him in mind of being this 50-50 guy that can make 80-20 balls, or 50-50 balls into 80-20 in his favor. And I don't know if in terms of a consistent rotation, now there may be an injury. Let's say XYZ happens and Tristan Smith's able to come in for a game and get you 6 catches for 70 yards. That's totally possible.
Sure.
But I do think Clemson's got a specific and unique vision in mind for that. And that's why I would probably chart him at 5 for now. 4, I'm going to stick with Tyler Brown. I still think he's going to have an incredible season given how much time he missed last year. But still, I think it's crowded. You got Cade that's already has the rapport with the 3 of those coming from 2024. Obviously, Cade was Brown's go-to target. I could also see these numbers interchanging like every single week, where you have 4 jump to 1, 1 jump to 2, 2 jump to 4. I could totally see it being that the case up until the final week of the season. So I think 3 is probably going to be Bryant Wesco. I think TJ Moore over the course of the latter part of the season started to become more of the receiver we expected him to be. And I think Klubnik was giving him more chances down the field. And I do think TJ Moore, when it's all said and done, will have the most yards per catch of this group. And I think that's going to be a fascinating try to evaluate that there. Williams is going to be my top guy, and Wesco is going to be number 2. It's going to be an uber talented group. It's really exciting to see what they're going to try to do with this offensively, formations-wise. There's so many different possibilities, and it's all going to come to a head with LSU here in a couple of weeks. It's 31 days away, guys.
Yeah.
At Gray_man21, that's man with 2 N's, is where you can find him on Twitter. Go give him a follow. We saw the pictures of Dabo at Panthers training camp, spending time with Hunter Renfrow. I know they've got a real close relationship. Obviously, it's made easier by the proximity, just an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes up the road. But who else is Dabo still super close with in the NFL? Who still kind of leans on Dabo quite a bit? I mean, obviously, Travis and Trevor Lawrence being just down the road in Jacksonville, and I know a lot of Clemson players have gone through that Falcons organization too.
If I had to label a specific player, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you, just because I think they probably try to keep, and I listened to Lawrence on Port of My Take a few weeks back saying he still talks to Sweeney pretty regularly. I wouldn't be shocked if it's someone like, and I was like Isaiah Simmons or Dexter Lawrence from those championship teams. Hunter Renfro's got to be a top guy, but there's one name that Sweeney said over and over anytime he's been on a podcast or what have you, and says if he could build rebuild a Clemson team, if it was completely wiped and he had to start from scratch, the first player he would choose is Grady Jarrett. And I think that would be your top name. Somebody that he personally took a chance on, scouted on, was a low-star recruit that really developed into something special at Clemson and then became a real star in the NFL, playing now for the Chicago Bears. Longtime Falcon, as a lot of fans know. So I think Grady's probably number one. We're pretty close in that list, just due to the nature of him being an early star in Sweeney's tenure.
Grayson, before we let you go, one question from one of our Tolos out there on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Texter from the 978 says, what does Grayson think about how Clemson will distribute the workload in the running back room?
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question, one of the top in our minds. I think it'll fluctuate from week to week. I wouldn't expect there to be a Phil Maffa type workload where somebody's getting the lion's share of the carries every single Saturday. I think it could depend on situations. Okay, this is a group that isn't as prone to the run. Let's get a heavy dose of that. Or they're susceptible to passes out of the backfield. Maybe that favors Adam Randall more this week. So I think it's going to fluctuate. I think it really will depend on matchup schemes, but I wouldn't expect the bell cow back.
Grayson, do you have any take on this Christian Wilkins situation with the Raiders and being dismissed from the team? I know it's a little early and facts keep coming out, but it's just a weird situation.
I think weird's the best way to put it, Diesel. And I've looked into it a little bit, and there's been some odd comments surrounding it from his teammates with the Raiders, and obviously Pete Carroll declined to answer. So I don't have all the information, and so it's kind of tough to form an opinion.
Grayson, 2025. It's not 2023 anymore. I don't know why my brain's still stuck there. But the high school football season around the corner, do you have a list of guys that in the maybe South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia area that you're going to try to get out and see this year that maybe are already committed to Clemson or are close to committing?
Well, definitely we're going to go see Karim Yulee, the quarterback committed at Gainesville. That's one option. I do want to go see Segura. I think Cole, you had put out a video how to correctly pronounce that. He sort of set the record straight. He's a guy, though, I do want to see. Kid out of Burns. Segura, okay. Local this was the opportunity to plug your stuff now because you were able to get that going. Yeah. But he's another one that I'm excited to see. Max Brown out of Jefferson. That's not a bad trip. Really easy to see there. There is one matchup that we have circled at TigerNet is Benedictine at Buford. Cameron Cody, Clemson 2026 commit playing against Trey Quinn, who just transferred to Buford. And also just to see Bryce Perry-Wright, the Texas A&M commit now that we all believed was a Clemson guy for quite some time. And to go see that $62 million stadium, apparently. Like, goodness. Goodness. It looks like straight out of like a Creative build.
It does. Grayson, you're the man. Always appreciate you.
Sorry for the cough to end that, but I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Grayson.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com, the absolute best. We appreciate him. As always, you can go check him out on Twitter. So many different ways to check out his work and what he does with TigerNet.com.
And when we come back, Cole, I think it's always important to self-scout. You know, you take a look around and see what you like, see what you don't like. I want to ask you, Tolos, to self-scout your own favorite team's football stadium. What are the best and the worst elements about it? And big changes coming to Williams-Brice. We'll tell you all about it next. Texter says, how would Grayson know who Dabo talks to? Well, we knew he was talking to Hunter Renfrow because of photos and interviews and podcasts. We would know that Dabo Swinney had a close relationship with other players through interviews, podcasts, and photos. It's a very simple concept, Texter. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Cole, a lot of Gamecock fans already know this, but renovation is underway to add some extra club level and luxury boxes to Williams-Brice Stadium, and that's going to cost you somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 seats to Williams-Brice Stadium. But if there are people who are willing to spend the large chunk of money to go sit in those seats and rent out those boxes, by God, the university wants to sell them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I thought this would be fun. Tolos 844-326-3663. Do a little self-scouting on the stadiums that you go into much, the places that you are a fan of. What do you love about them, and what do you just doesn't sit right with you? The way that your stadium operates, the way that it looks, the way that it's put together. Text in 844-326-3663. Cole, I know you've spent a lot of time at Death Valley, there at Memorial Stadium. What is it that always kind of bugs you every time you go in? There's got to be something. It's a great stadium. I'm not saying there's a lot of deficiencies.
I'm trying to think here. Besides the walking, I mean, maybe it's tough. I think every stadium you have to walk. So I don't know if that's valid or not.
It's not like NFL stadiums. It's the ones that are built with like gigantic parking lots that wrap all the way around it. You know, with Clemson,
I mean,
you got to walk a lot.
That's tough. I'd probably throw that out there just off the cuff. I'm going to try to think of one or two more. You know, as media, from a media standpoint, I like enclosed press boxes that are enclosed. Clemson's is enclosed, but it's the media part's not enclosed. So I don't love that. I love South Carolina's press box. 90% of the ones I've been to.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I want to hear everything. Yeah. I want to smell everything. I want to hear that big rush and roar of the crowd. If I wanted to do that, I'd buy a ticket. I don't want to be like at Clemson. You're like right behind students, and I mean, like their heads here. Your nose is here. Yeah, it's close. I love it though. I don't like being stuck behind a pane of glass. You know, I want to be able to. I want to be able to experience it because that's what gets me going. Not only as a football fan,
you need to buy a ticket. You need to go sit in the You need to sit in the end zone.
I've done that too.
Student section.
No, they'd be like, "Who are you? Whose dad are you? Who are you here to see your kid? Parents' weekend is next weekend, sir." It's okay though to admit that sometimes your stadium and the way they operate things isn't perfect. My stadium, Kid Brewer Stadium up at App State, they have made it so that you have about a postage stamp wide section of aluminum to sit on. They increased capacity over the years, not by building any new stands or making new places for people to sit. They just pull the sticker numbers off of the chairbacks and they just squoze them a little tighter. And so you got no room. You're sitting right on top of everybody.
Neyland Stadium's the same way, man. Neyland Stadium, and I've never been to App State, but Neyland Stadium, you have no room for the the little boys. I mean, none.
You got to throw them over your shoulder.
You are leg to leg to leg to knee to knee to knee. It is unbelievable. It's a great environment. I've only been once, but it's like it's sardines.
It's funny. It's funny as people hate it, that they hate that they're packed in the like sardines. But if somebody were to ever say, well, why don't we just put in all chairbacks like an NFL stadium? No, we can't do that.
Yeah,
it'll ruin the atmosphere.
Eliminate a lot of seats.
A lot of seats,
I'm sure you do. And Clemson's tight too. It's been a while since I've sat down there as a fan, but it is pretty tight, no doubt. Diesel, it has been a long time since you and I have done our welfare check, the first welfare check of the 2025 season, NFL edition. Tolos, if you don't know what a welfare check is, if you're new to the show, we appreciate you, number one. Number two, we'll tell you what it is next. You can be a part at 844-FAN-PHONE. some people are really good at their job, and then some people just, what in the world are you doing here? I saw, Diesel, a publication earlier today that had Dave Canales, the head football coach of the Carolina Panthers, in the top 5 of hot seats entering the season. What are we doing here? He's been there for a year.
To be fair, Dave Tepper is really trigger happy when it comes to firing coaches.
But he's been there for a season.
He's had like 30 of them in his tenure as the GM and the owner, not the GM, but the owner. So, I mean, it's not crazy to say Canales is on the hot seat. It's stupid, but it's not crazy.
On the hot seat. The dude's been there for like 16 seconds.
And by all accounts, he's doing a phenomenal job of changing the culture.
Are you kidding me? I mean, I saw that and I was like, you got to be kidding. There's no way Dave Canales.
Did this reporter just go pull the 5 worst records in the NFL last year? It's like, those are the guys.
Good chance of that. Good chance of that.
You need to put Bill Belichick on that list.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Bill's not here. That makes sense. Goodness gracious. Dave Canales, top 5. There is a segment that we do during football season once a week or so called Welfare Check. We check on the coaches in the NFL or college football that are home. Why would they not be home, Diesel? Because they've been fired. You ready?
Yeah,
you
let's
ready
do
to do
it.
a welfare check? For those Tolos out there that have never heard of the welfare check, it's right now on the Fan Upstate. Dave Canales, top 5.
0 out of 10.
0 out of 10.
Not a chance.
Will he be on your top 10, though?
No. I mean,
Wider, what's your name?
is he performing as a top 22 coach in the NFL? No, but he's had one season. He's doing a great job changing the culture. For all intents and purposes, we've never heard anything that he's got a bad relationship with Dan Morgan or with Dave Tepper. There's no prickly, they're not throwing jabs at each other with their eyes as they walk past each other down the hallway. Dave Canales is as safe as it gets.
You would think.
3 years from now, 4 years from now, maybe. Maybe Dave Tepper looks at Dave Canales and says, I got no choice but to hang on to him long term because I got to get these other coaches off my books. I got to stop paying these guys who are now coaching college ball at Nebraska and only be paying one coach at a time.
Let's go to the phone lines to start this edition of Welfare Check, where we check to see who's home and who's not going to be home for long because their seat's so hot in the NFL. Jersey Joe, who in your mind is on the hot seat in the NFL?
Well, Cole, I'm sorry, but I was calling about your last segment with the stadiums and stuff like that.
Well, why didn't you call last segment then?
Well, I was busy.
He was busy toloing.
I guess
he can't tolo and dial at the same time.
I guess that's acceptable. I guess we'll accept your busyness since you're the busiest man. I'm just giving you a hard time. What in the world do you think's wrong with your stadium going back to the last segment?
Well, it wasn't my stadium, but the Malden High School stadium, especially the press box. I was the PA announcer there from 2012 through the 2015 season.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yes, while my 2 boys played there,
yeah,
I did the PA announcer.
We've probably met and didn't know it.
And I just didn't like their press box because it was totally enclosed.
Enclosed, yeah.
The windows didn't open up,
See, Joe's with me.
Well, I want openable windows.
And very early in the season, it's very warm up there.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you on the openable windows. We always set up on the top, Jersey Joe. The top of the press box.
Yes, sir. Up there, that little catwalk up there.
Yeah, we always went up there. We did. Jersey Joe, appreciate the phone call, man.
Thanks, Joe.
All right.
We're going to get back to the welfare check real quick. I promise we will. But I did want to get to this breaking news, Diesel. Pete Yannity of WSPA, sports director, good friend of the show, tweeted this out 42 seconds ago. Jersey Joe brought this up, and it's been brought up like 10 times on our text line this week. This is from Pete Yannity, and he says on Twitter, on X, Daniel High School head football coach Chris Stone has been placed on administrative leave while the program is evaluated, according to SDPC spokesman Darian Bird. The Lions program has been the subject of a district investigation following a reported incident earlier this month. So really, really big news that is just breaking in terms of the Daniel High School situation with the fight that we talked about, Diesel, earlier in the week that happened at a camp and in a dorm room. So I did want to get that breaking news out there, but the coach, Chris Stone, in his first season, just got to Daniel High School, and in his first season, he's placed on administrative. What a tough situation.
Yeah.
That's tough, man. Hope for the best. But like I said a couple of days ago,
ultimately it all falls on the coach, though. Ask any coach anytime there's something wrong inside of their program, whether it be a big deal or a little deal. They will say, the good coaches will say, it's all ultimately my business. And it is my program. It is my job to make sure these things run smoothly or in the case of bad things, don't happen at all.
And I hope, Diesel, that he's not the scapegoat here. I hope they don't place the blame on him. Even though the buck does stop with him, I hope that they don't say, okay, well, the players, they're fine. The 3 or 4 players or whatever that were involved in the incident, they can play. You know, they're the 1-game suspension or whatever. They're fine, but we're going to get the coach for it. I hope there is an equal amount of blame placed across. So just a tough situation. Hate to see that happening. Not just not the fact that it's local, but the fact that it's happening anywhere. We'll keep an eye out on that. But let's get back to the hot seat conversation. The welfare check, Diesel, the first one of the season. Hottest coaches in the NFL. Tolos, who's on the hot seat? 844-FAN phone. The phone number is 844-326-3663. Phone lines are open. Hub City Spartanburgers text line also open. Diesel, for me, there is no seat hotter than the seat of Brian Daboll. And I will clip this audio. I will save this audio because, Diesel, on the 30th day of July in 2025, I'm here to tell you, Brian Daboll will not make it throughout the entirety of the season. He will be fired mid-season as head football coach of the New York Giants. In my mind, there's not a hotter seat in all of the NFL than Brian Daboll.
Yeah, well, he hitched his wagon to Russ, and that everything runs through that gap of what does Russell Wilson do for us? I mean, you see it all the time. You see coaches making these sort of desperate moves when they know they're right there on that edge, and it's a gamble. Russell Wilson had something special like 10 years ago, and the hope is there's some magic left in Russ's arm.
So here's the problem, Diesel, and I tell you that Brian Daboll will be fired. You say, well, Cole, what do you have to back that up? Well, here's why. Here's what I have to back it up. Let's look at the Giants' schedule. You ready for this, Diesel? The Giants with Russell Wilson, who, by the way, the Giants have a total of like 10 wins over the past 3 or 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. They open with Washington, at Washington. Do we believe they're going to beat Washington and Jaden Daniels on the road? No, we don't believe that. Do we believe the next week they're going to beat Dak Prescott at Dallas? Probably not. We don't expect that. Do you know who they play week 3? Kansas City Chiefs. So 0-2 Giants team host Patrick Mahomes. Do we believe they'll beat the Chiefs?
No.
Okay, 0-3.
No.
The next week, they host the L.A. Chargers. Do we believe that he's going to beat the Chargers? No. 0-4. This is getting bad already. You're like already having the conversation of, okay, 0-4, do we go ahead and make the move? They're at New Orleans in week 5, Diesel.
I think you win that game just because there's so much flux in the quarterback position.
Maybe.
At New Orleans.
Okay, let's give them a win there. I think it's a coin flip.
50-50, 50-50 game.
So 1-4. Next week, they host The Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles.
Loss.
1-5. The next week they go to Denver. I'm going to say 1-6.
Loss.
The next week they go right back to the Philadelphia Eagles. 1-7.
Ouch.
So now you're 1-7.
Yeah.
And you're having serious conversations. At best, you're 2-6, but I don't see 2-6 happening. Diesel, the good news is when you're 1-7, you know who you host the next week? The 49ers. Really good team. That becomes 1-8. This is a brutal schedule.
The Giants
by
are the
way.
new Panthers.
1-8. You go to Chicago. Do you beat Caleb Williams in Chicago?
Maybe.
Okay, so we'll get 2-8.
Maybe.
Then you host Jordan Love and the Packers, 2-9. Then you go to Detroit, 2-10. At 2-10, how does Brian Daboll still have a job? There's no way, is there?
The only way is that there's not a single candidate out there that Brass thinks can do better.
I mean, 2-10.
But at that point, you gotta start looking at your offensive coordinator or your DC as your interim. You gotta start thinking, and they may already be thinking that. Who's my interim gonna be by week number 10?
That's brutal. That is brutal. So let's say they're 2-10. Well, it gets better, right? Well, they go to New England. Mike Vrabel. I say 2-11. Washington next week 2-12. Minnesota, we'll give them a win just for the heck of it. 3-12. At the Raiders, we'll give them 4-12. Cowboys, they hadn't beaten Dallas.
Oh, they'll beat the Cowboys.
Well, you know what their record is against Dallas in the last 16 meetings? I think they've won once.
Oh, if they faced them in the playoffs, they'd beat Dallas.
Well, they don't make it to the playoffs.
That's true.
So you're looking at a 4-win, maybe 5-win team. I just don't know that Brian Daboll makes it through. I think he's fired. I think Brian Daboll has the hottest seat, Diesel.
And he's the first one fired?
Yeah, I do. Look, mid-season firings don't happen often. But guess what? This one's going to be hot.
Yeah, but they're going to be doing some mid-season interviewing. I can tell you that much. You know, they want to go ahead and get whoever's the hottest name, and you know the people are going to start shouting John Gruden. You know, because they always
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick to the Giants.
How about that?
Wow.
All right, Diesel, for this next one, I'm going to ask you and the Tolos to pick between the two. Who has the hotter seat? Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins or Zach Taylor of the Bengals?
Oh, man, I think it's probably Mike McDaniel. Zach Taylor, obviously that team underperformed, but you know they've got talent there.
Yeah.
You know they're good.
Mike McDaniel, by the way, entering his fourth season. He's 28-23 in the regular season. Under 500 in
Zach's taken him to the promised land
season.
before. Like he's had good seasons before, and I think you give him another year. You give him one more unencumbered year where he can say, "All right, man, this is what I can do for you."
Doesn't it just kind of feel like, Diesel, they've plateaued a little bit? The Miami Dolphins? Like, they've got a good quarterback that's never healthy, but I just feel like this team's play, even with Tyreek Hill. What are they? I mean, they've got talent, but it seems like they've kind of plateaued in my mind. So I don't necessarily hate that. But Zach Taylor, in the other breath, Diesel, Zach Taylor, if you sign Trey Hendrickson and you come up short again and you have another slow start like the Bengals have done, I mean, come on. You've got Joe Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Hendricks. I mean, this dude kind of has no excuse.
Dan B says if Joe gets hurt again, Bengals gonna suck again.
Ooh.
Not wrong.
Yeah. Well,
He's not
most
wrong.
quarterbacks. Oh, if Chase gets hurt again. Yeah. Shane Steichen of the Indianapolis Colts, does he make it through the season? He's entering his third season with the Colts. Diesel, they are 17-17 under Shane Steichen in his first two seasons.
I don't think it's Shane Steichen's fault. I mean, they don't have a quarterback. Anthony Richardson is buns.
Daniel Jones,
he was that guy. Yeah, Daniel Jones. If you're hinging on your backup Daniel Jones, that's on the GM right there. That's on. Is the Colts GM the same GM that drafted Anthony Richardson?
It's a good question.
Because
look that up.
I would put a lot of it on them. Sorry, I'm not up to date with the Colts GM comings and goings, but that's on the GM for not giving you players and for massively overreaching on Anthony Richardson a couple of years ago.
I don't think I'm with you. I think the quarterback room's just horrible. So, I mean, how much of it falls on Shane Steichen? They finished second in the AFC South both years, so they haven't been the worst, but they've been on the outside looking in terms of the playoffs both of those seasons. Steichen was hired the same offseason, Diesel, Indy drafted Anthony Richardson. So Steichen was hired almost at the same time. They took Anthony Richardson number 4 overall, which is crazy.
If you said he was a 4th rounder, that would make sense. But number 4 overall.
Oh, boy.
I remember when Anthony Richardson was looked at as a guy that wouldn't even go in the first round, and then he just shot up draft boards that year.
And he's just blown up in their face, and now they're entering a quarterback battle between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Boy, do I feel bad.
Texter says, y'all got to stop with that siren. I just did a double take driving through downtown Greenville.
Well, don't speed.
Yeah, don't be doing
speeding.
65 in downtown Greenville.
Let me ask you this question when it comes to hot seats, welfare checks, Diesel, NFL coaches, you and the Tolos out there. Let's say that the Buffalo Bills yet again fall short of the Super Bowl. Let's say the Buffalo Bills cannot kick the door down.
Oh, Josh.
And Josh Allen and those guys are coming up short again. If that happens, let's say they lose in the playoffs in the second round and they're not in the Super Bowl. Is Sean McDermott to blame? Because you could argue that the Buffalo Bills have had the best roster, including quarterback, for the near half decade that Sean McDermott's competed in the AFC, Diesel. But you look at his tenure, they've been successful, uber successful. He's tied for the second most wins by a head coach in his first 8 seasons in NFL history. The Bills have won 5 straight division titles, coming off 2024 where they reached the AFC Championship for the second time in the Sean McDermott era. But guess what, Diesel? That's where the success has stopped under Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
Buffalo has been unable to get over the hump, win the conference, and advance to the Super Bowl with that chance to hoist the Lombardi. So as much as talent as they've had, they just haven't been able to kick the door down.
Dan B says, there isn't a town in the entire country that uses that siren on its emergency vehicles. Could you imagine?
Thank you,
man.
Dan. Thank you, Dan.
That'd be dope right there. To be driving down the road, you get pulled over, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute! Don't cut the siren off, man. We're at the beat." No, making that choice, Cole, getting rid of McDermott, not Mike
Sean McDermott.
Sean, yeah, would be like the decision made by the New York Knicks to fire Tom Thibodeau and seek someone who can give you more. It's a gamble, right?
It's a big gamble.
Thibodeau got him to the playoffs, made a good run. And then you say, we think we can go higher than this. So you take a gamble.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee the gamble plays off. And as soon as you fire him, everybody wants him.
Let's go run to the phone lines before we run to a break. Jimmy wants to weigh in at 844-326-3663. What are your thoughts, Jimmy?
Well, you guys do realize that sirens are also used for fire trucks and ambulances, right?
Yeah, they don't sound like that.
The whole way home.
They don't sound like that. That's a gangster siren.
Be fired.
I like that.
Have a good one.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy going full Dewey there. Dewey has really influenced the Tolos out there.
Now we're if we get another Tolo doing this, we're gonna have a Dewey off.
Oh, Dewey off.
Can you more Dewey than Dewey?
I don't know that we can take that. That is incredible. Jimmy dropping the y'all need to be fired. I don't know if it's as good as this one.
Y'all need to be fired.
But it was pretty good, Jimmy. Pretty good Dewey impression. That's funny. How do you feel, Dewey, to be so famous and so popular? So there you go. There's your welfare check, Diesel. We enter the 2025 season and the season kind of starts Thursday. That's tomorrow.
That's it.
Tomorrow.
We're all going to go home, crack open a beer, get some chicken wings, and watch football together.
I know it is a preseason game, but tomorrow night, all kidding aside, I will go home and I will watch the first snap, and I will probably watch the first half, every snap of the first. I don't know how long second half I'll watch.
Does tomorrow count as the first preseason game for those two teams?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if it was its own standalone thing.
I am all in. I'm just ready to see a football in here. Sign me up.
I don't know when the last time was that I made it past the first quarter of the Hall of Fame game, because it's usually not good football, so I didn't know for sure. When we come back, Cole, we'll hear from Charles Barkley.
Oh.
Chuck, not happy with the way brass at TNT handled the trade of Inside the NBA to ESPN, and he is opening up about it. We'll hear from Chuck. We'll hear from Jim Harbaugh, Garrett Wilson, Kyler Murray, Sean Payton, and so many more. A good old-fashioned audio blitz coming your way next. Cole, it's never easy to find out in the news or secondhand about your employment situation, especially when you're on a big deal show that everybody loves. But Charles Barkley went off about how TNT let him and the show go inside the NBA when they made the move over to the ESPN side of things. It's a lengthy audio cut here. It's about 2 minutes long, but here's Chuck not holding back. As a matter of fact, they had to bleep this audio a couple of times because Chuck's still mad about it. Here's Charles.
Try that again.
Sir, you can see the concern. And I thought TNT, our bosses did a job. They did an awful job of keeping us abreast. I give an example. Like, we were playing golf during the playoffs, and we were reading the internet, finding out if we're going to get fired or not.
Right.
And I was like, TNT, our bosses, they sucked, plain and simple. They're like, yo, man, just tell us.
Yeah, let us know. Shoot us straight.
Just shoot us straight.
Yeah.
These are real people. We literally were playing golf during the playoffs, looking at the internet. Then one story said we lost it. The next story said we're still in negotiation. Then we lost it. We're still in negotiation. And TNT never came to us like grown folk and said, hey, guys, we probably going to lose the NBA, which we could have understood.
Right.
But I thought they sucked. I told them they sucked because there's a way you treat people.
Yeah.
Because if they had came to us and said, hey, you know what, it's a lot of money. Because, we were paying $1.2 billion a year, and it went to $2.5 billion. That's a lot of money for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
If they had said it's not a good deal, we would have understood. But to let us hear about it, and I'll tell you something really about it, too. I found out that we got traded to ESPN from ESPN.
That's guy.
Yeah. No, so this is a true story. So I'm sitting at home on a Friday night. I get a text, because all the rumors in the air, we didn't know anything. I'm sitting at home on a Friday night. I get a text from Scott Van Pelt, Brian Windhorst, L. Duncan, and Bob Myers. Welcome me to the family. I'm like, what family?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? And then about an hour and a half later, I get a call from TNT. They're like, well, the story broke. I says, well, you probably could have gave us a heads up.
Yeah, you've known for a couple of days.
Yeah. I says, you traded us to ESPN, and we had to hear about it on the internet. I said, that's just not the way you do business. I said, Ernie Johnson deserved, because he's the godfather, Ernie Johnson should not hear he got traded from ESPN people of the internet.
Yeah. Right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
That's a bleepy way to handle your business. Look, maybe TNT thought if we talk to our staff about it, if we tell them about it, they're going to let it slip. And then you know how the internet works, especially when there's trades, when there's transfers. The rumors hit first, and then about a day later, a couple hours later, that's when the official sites start coming out and saying, oh, this is happening. This is real. Meanwhile, the rest of the internet's like, of course, we've known about this for hours, right? Twitter's been all over this for hours. But man, it's easy to be as candid as Chuck when you're rich, and getting fired or losing your gig doesn't hurt you because somebody is going to pick up every single member of that show. If they're not picked up together, somebody's going to pick all of them up individually. So it's easy to be as candid as he was.
But I'll tell you what, it's easy to be candid when you no longer work for him. It doesn't matter when you don't work for him, right? So just let us know how you really feel. I will say, in this world we live in, it doesn't surprise me. People are keyboard. I mean, we would rather just, take the easy route and allow people to find out through the keyboards, through the stories online. But I will agree with them on the part about Ernie. I mean, Ernie's been there for so many years, decades, that Ernie Johnson has hosted that show and been the staple, the foundation. Obviously, there's so many other personalities around them, Diesel, that helped bring the show to life. But man, I mean, to think that you've got a guy employed for decades, like not one, not two, not three, and you just, we're not going to tell them what's going on. It's shoddy. There's no doubt.
I mean, I've seen situations in this business where decisions get made over talent's head, like couple layers up in the managerial chain. And usually the one whose life is being affected by this is the last one to know.
Yeah.
And it's not right, but it's the way
That's funny,
it's like nobody even thinks to tell the talent that you're about to lose your job.
Yeah.
Or this is happening, or this station's being shut down, or we're sending you over to ESPN. Nobody thinks to nobody even bothers to think to tell them. Here's some audio from the Ravens coach, John Harbaugh, on Isaiah Likely, who fractured his foot in practice. Here's the latest directly from Coach.
Yeah, we'll know more tomorrow. It's going to be a few weeks, though. You know, there's something. He rolled his ankle, foot area, so we'll get an MRI tomorrow and see exactly what it needs to be done. But it'll be a few weeks. It's good that's this early in camp, so.
So we don't know yet.
Former Coastal Carolina Chanticleer,
Yeah.
by the way,
Yeah.
Isaiah Likely. And you know what's interesting about that is, like, you look at guys who are still pretty young in their career. They're able to bounce back from things like that. Hopefully you don't look at this situation and think, man, you remember what Isaiah Likely was before he had that ankle injury, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, afterwards, he just wasn't the same. I don't think that's going to happen, but I hope not, because he is a big part of that offense. He really is. He's a solid NFL tight end.
Audio Blitz continues. Here's audio from the Jets' Garrett Wilson, who's talking about the difference between going through an Aaron Glenn training camp than previous Jets regimes.
Through camp, what have you seen that's maybe a little different than what you've experienced, your first few years in the league?
Yeah, just the competitiveness. The not just talking about being competitive. Like, no, you got to train that way. It's got to feel like that at practice. It's got to feel like if you lose, it sucks at practice. It can't just be, we'll turn it on when the game comes, right? And I think that's the main thing that I see that's different. Just the way we're practicing, the intensity, the stakes. It feels like there's stakes. Depending on which period it is, the stakes feel higher based on. Whether it's a competition red zone or a 2-minute, it feels like you won the drill when you won the drill, right? And it feels like you lost when you lost. And to me, that's how I like it. It's practice, yes, but there's also an opportunity to practice winning and get that feeling and what it takes to just do it, right, on a consistent basis. And I think it starts out here. So that's something that I love to be a part of. And throughout these first couple months, I've seen it. For sure, with the way he's hammering home stuff in meetings.
Look out AFC East, right?
Wonder how Robert Saleh feels about that, I mean, seriously, though. I mean, I think there's a lot to say about that, because you think about, the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers being there previously, Diesel, older vet. Think about it for a second. Older vet. You know how those vets get. They don't have to go through the rigmarole anymore. They don't have to take the hard route. They don't have to the blood, sweat, tears this thing through training camp. They've been there. They're gonna be a veteran a little bit.
Their position is secure.
Yeah,
also.
And I do believe that. I don't know if Aaron Glenn will work out or not. I hope he does, because the New York Jets need some sort of culture built in that organization. But that's where it starts. That's certainly where it starts. When you talk about building an organization back and creating that culture, you've got to have those training camps and practices and OTAs mean something. To hit, who was that player again?
That was Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson's point. You've got to have that bad feeling in practice and in camp the same way you do after loss, so that you can figure out how to improve and get better. I like it. I don't know if it'll translate to anything, Diesel, but I like what I hear so far.
Cole, try not to get through this, or try to get through this clip without laughing. Okay.
Oh boy.
This is audio from Kyler Murray on his mindset going into
I'm
year
already
7.
laughing. I'm already laughing.
Going into year 7 compared to going into year 1.
Going into year 7, what would year 7 Kyler tell year 1 Kyler?
Year 7, man, I mean, it's two different players, two different, the mindset's never been changed. I always feel like I'm the best player on the field every time I touch the field. Like that confidence, that swag's never changed. It's funny, somebody told me the other day Jordan didn't win his first championship until year 7. Obviously, Jordan's did a lot of big shoes to fill, but no, man, nothing matters from last. The past doesn't matter. All we're focused on today in this season. So I firmly believe that this team can go out there and get it done. Now, is it going to be tough? Of course, but we got to put the work in and continue to do it each and every week. And I'm excited for that challenge.
I didn't laugh. But I sat there and raised my eyebrows a little bit, Diesel.
What would year 7 me tell year 1 me? Lay off the PlayStation. Study the playbook.
Yeah.
Maybe that would help.
I'll tell you this, man. You know what's weird about this whole situation? We laugh and joke about it, and Kyler Murray still has a lot to prove to Diesel, but what's weird about it is, like, if you watched Kyler Murray in high school, there was nobody better. In college, there was nobody better.
Well, he could out-athlete everyone in high school and in college. He can't out-athlete people in the pros. You got to be dedicated to your craft, and you have to be so dedicated that it makes up for your deficiencies. Look, Kyler Murray's skill set shouldn't be that far off of Patrick Mahomes' skill set. What's the difference, though? Mindset, mentality, work ethic.
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't know. And yes, Michael Jordan finally won his first NBA championship in year 7. That's great. That's cute. The same things coaches tell you when you get cut from the high school basketball team, as I did. We all did, right? When you get cut from that team, what do they tell you? Well, guys, you did good, but Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Oh, well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate that. That'll really mean a lot, years from now, right?
Yeah.
It happens. I'll say this. Kyler Murray, to me, in year 7, this might not be fair. This might be unfair, Diesel, but the way I look at and view Kyler Murray, he's still got as much to prove in year 7 as he did in year 1.
Why are we never looking at Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals as a team that's trying to figure out what their next direction at quarterback is?
It's because everybody's focused on the Cowboys, and that's all we do is bash the Cowboys. We don't ever look at the other 30 teams in the NFL that consistently don't get there. It's all about Dallas, Dallas, Dallas. They are close to having that. I don't think they're there yet in terms of having that conversation, but I don't think they're as far as people think either.
Next up, Sean Payton, who you probably know his name. He had some messages for Deion Sanders coming off of his recent health scare and the him being cleared of his bladder cancer. Here's Sean.
No, I text him. I'm proud of him, excited for him, happy for him. I consider him a close friend all the way back to when I first entered this league. Our thoughts are with him because football's better with him. Colorado's better with him. And it's impressive to watch him coach and teach. He was calling offensive plays at one point when I met him, and I kind of looked at him with a funny eye, but he enjoyed that. His son was like a sophomore at the time. But it was great news to hear yesterday, and I know we're excited for him.
Thanks, Sean. Real deep. We're excited. No, I'm just kidding. I think everybody's kind of the same sentiment, right? Same sentiment around Deion.
Nobody has said, that guy's a jerk. I wish he still had it.
No kidding, right?
Last one here for you, Cole, on this audio blitz. I mean, I've got some audio of the Braves getting some big hits yesterday, but they lost, so it might make you feel worse to hear the fact that they're hitting home runs and still losing baseball games. But here's a little bit of a head-scratcher, man. I can't quite figure out where Maryland head coach Mike Locksley is coming from when he says – well, he's actually really excited about not knowing who's going to be playing what position on his team and who's still going to be on his team leading up to the season. Here's Mike.
This is the landscape we're in because, half of us as coaches in this league kind of know what we have coming because maybe we went out and acquired some really talented players in the spring and you had your team set going into the summer where half of us had guys roll in June 1st and for the first time are suiting up as Terps. So I'm more excited that there is so much unknown. And for me, the kid that grew up in the south side of D.C., man, not knowing, that's that wheelhouse I like to live in for some reason, man. And not knowing who the quarterback is, not knowing how talented of a team we have, I'm excited to get to fall camp because it's a lot like our counterparts a level ahead of us, the NFL, where they got 5 to 6 weeks to create a team, develop a culture where they play for something bigger than themselves, and then they go do it. And they grow, and now it's a one-year team, no longer the 3- and 4-year model that I'd come to how we've built the Maryland program.
I don't believe you, Mike.
Sounds good, right? Ultimately, it sounds real good.
That sounds like window dressing, so he doesn't have to be the one out in the media screaming, this sucks. We don't know who our quarterback is going to be. Who's going to play wide receiver? I don't even know his name yet.
I'll tell you this, he sounds secure in his job, doesn't he? Like he doesn't have any doubts or worries on what's going to happen. Well, the job doesn't matter. I'm good. We're good. I love this part. You don't hear coaches say that often. You don't hear them say that often. So it is kind of weird when you do hear that. But it sounds confident. I like the confidence.
I mean, maybe the tone should have been embrace the chaos, embrace not knowing. We may be a lot better than anybody expected us to be. So there's a chance that we go out and surprise some teams this year because we are going to learn just like you are about this group.
We'll learn. We'll tell you what it's like week 2 when we lose again. Tolos, our chance to get you caught up on what's happening in the world of sports. Our Daily Wire is next. What else is happening out there in the sports world? A segment where we take a look at that, our Daily Wires.
Bzzz.
It's the buzz of what's happening in Charlotte, North Carolina. How about this? This is cool, Diesel. Classroom Central is proud to announce a transformational gift from the David and Nicole Tepper Foundation and Carolina Panthers that strengthens a decade-long partnership to promote equity in education across the Carolinas. Under the Teppers' leadership, the partnership has grown to fund 25,000 backpacks annually through Backpacks and Basics, while also expanding year-round school supply access through the Learning Locker Initiative. This year, David and Nicole Tepper and the Panthers are filling a gap of 13,000 plus backpacks to meet the needs of the community for a total of 38,000 backpack and school supplies for the 2025 and 6 school year. How about that?
Awesome. Hide all the bad stuff you did with some good stuff.
That's right. If Tua has a say, he'll be on the field this preseason. We mentioned it earlier, but the quarterback said he'd love to see an extended run through the preseason slate. Really interesting there. Diesel, locally, Wesley Mallett has been named the Deputy Athletics Director / Chief of Marketing or Chief Marketing Officer for Gamecock Athletics. University of South Carolina AD Jeremiah Donati announced today. Mallett comes to South Carolina from the University of California, Riverside, where he has most recently been serving as the school's athletics director.
Was he a little confused as to which USC he's working for?
Somebody might need to tell him. Hey, man, you know you're going to South Carolina, right? Huh? Wait, what? Thought I was going to USC.
Same temperature, just a ton more humidity.
A lot more humidity. A WNBA fan at the Atlanta Dream and Golden State Valkyries game threw a green dildo. This is not what I thought I'd say today on Daily Wires. Onto the court on Tuesday night, creating one of the most bizarre stoppages in sports possibly ever.
Yeah, if you see the photos, how did that get there?
Oh, wow. Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz comprise 2 of the 51 names on this year's Butkus Awards watch list, recognizing 51 top linebackers in tribute to the jersey number of the great Dick Butkus. I met Dick one time in Texas, and it seemed like a nice guy. 79-year-old former head of WWE, Vince McMahon, was in a car accident around 9 a.m. last Thursday in Connecticut. McMahon and his 2024 Bentley rear-ended a BMW. No injuries were reported. Prosecutors say that ESPN analyst and ex-New York Knick Marcus Morris tried to scam $265,000 from a Las Vegas casino. He was arrested in Florida over the weekend. He allegedly cashed multiple bad checks in the MGM Grand and at the Wynn in Las Vegas, Diesel.
Yeah, he wrote a $100,000 check so that he could go out there and gamble, and obviously the checks bounced, and he was tracked down to Florida because he hadn't paid any of the money back.
And this dude's like on ESPN's First Take every morning almost. That's crazy. And ending with some Braves news. The Braves put up 14 hits but lost 9-6 yesterday. Better today? No, lost 1-0 in 10 innings. Joey Wentz gave the Braves 6 scoreless innings in relief. And last but not least, Shannon Sharp officially out at ESPN after a scandal with an OnlyFans model. So
womp, womp.
Those, ladies and gentlemen, are your Daily Wires.
When we come back, Cole, on the other side of the break, let's dive back into the conversation that led the show earlier today. Quarterbacks and which rooms are in the most flux. We'll present a bunch of options and then rank them 1 through 5.